Hello, LinkedIn, Twitch, Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube. My name is Frank Lavinia, and your eyes do not deceive you. This is my second stream of the day, and I think it's the first time I really did that. Mostly because I felt bad because I clearly didn't have enough coffee before on my other live stream. So this one is not going to be another book review, but it's about me sharing my new favorite TV show. As you know, if you've been following Andy and I in the last couple of years on datadriven.tv, you know that we are big fans of Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone is an acquired taste. I will give you that. I first discovered him when he was doing Meerkat streams. So most of you may not even remember Meerkat, but Meerkat was, well, it was kind of like Periscope before Periscope. They are since out of business, but he basically was the #1 streamer. And I just kept, I installed the app. I think at the time I just switched from Windows Phone. And I remember like just getting these notifications, like, Grant Cardone is streaming. And like I would look, and then mostly it was him like, be great, be great, be great. Right. And then it was also kind of him showing off, hey, I'm in my private jet. Look, we're landing here. And da 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 da. I'm thinking, who the hell is this guy? Right? Because I hadn't heard of him before. And, not that I know every billionaire in the country or in the world, but I mean, it's somebody like Jack Ma you've heard of, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos. I mean, billionaires you've heard of, or millionaires you've heard of. And what's interesting is his message is pretty cool. He writes a lot of sales books. This is one of them. My first exposure to Grant Cardone, it was the 10X rule, and the 10X rule was pretty awesome. It came to me at a time in my life where I was feeling burnt out, to be quite honest with you. I found out that my job was going to move to the other part of the country. I wasn't really into the idea, and I found it harder to transfer from where I was for various reasons. Perhaps I will expound upon these reasons at some point in the future. But I got the audiobook, and at the time I was commuting 5 days a week to downtown DC. And it really spoke to me. I think I listened to that thing like, at least a dozen times. I would just listen to it again and again and again and again. I mean, I just couldn't get enough. And then I started reading what he posts online, Twitter, and Facebook and things like that. He does a lot of live streaming on Facebook. And it just kind of spoke to me. So then I got a second book, which was actually the first Audible book I ever got, was Be Obsessed or Be Average, where he kind of, the 10X rule was great, but it kind of left some, and to me, it left some questions unanswered, which he got into in Be Obsessed or Be Average. And I've listened to that book as well as many times. Then I kind of went through the rest of his library. If you're not first, you're last. He's primarily a sales kind of trainer, which for me at the time, I found myself at a startup with a former coworker of mine, good friend of mine, and we couldn't close a door. I mean, we had severe problems. We had severe problems closing deals. So ever since that kind of realization, that I got more into kind of his sales training, Jordan Belfort's sales training, just sales training in general. And I know when people say sales, they get a little bit like, eh. I've gotten over that. And I think sales is about, sales is about helping people ultimately. I mean, obviously you help yourself too. Are there bad actors out there? Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you see them in the movies. Those are the folks you see in the movies, right? Cookies are for closers, la, da, 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 da. But it doesn't mean that they're not a vital part of kind of getting business. If you have a solution, if you have a product, you have to sell it. That's just how it is. Even if you don't act in a traditional sales role, when you go on an interview, you have to convince somebody to hire you. If you have kids and you're trying to get them ready for bed, you have to convince them to get ready for bed. So it's really about influence. Anyway, I did say this is about TV show, not me pontificating. This show, Undercover Billionaire, it premiered Wednesday. It was the second season. The first season was really interesting because while I Grant Cardone's been promoting this for a while, so I'm like, well, let me check out what the show is really about. So the premise of the show is you take billionaires or extremely very wealthy people. If they're not billionaires, they're worth 800, 900 million. Let's round it up. Well, that was weird. The ad popped up. And what they do is they drop them in a place where they don't know anyone, and they give them $100, a beat up truck, and a cell phone, and 90 days to create a business that's worth $1 million. And there's a whole kind of thing about it. Of course, it's reality TV, so there's a little bit of extra drama. You have the dramatic cut scenes and the music and things like that. But it's really good. And Glenn Stearns was the first guy to go through this. This season, they have 3 entrepreneurs. Obviously, there's Grant Cardone in the middle. Her name is Monique, and I am totally blanking on her name. Sorry. But it's pretty interesting. He goes to Pueblo, Colorado. She goes to Tacoma, Washington. She ends up in Fresno, California. She's a major real estate developer in Southern California. And so it's a cool show because first they kind of have to realize, okay, I have $100, I have 90 days. You just start being more conscious of every decision you make, and you watch them kind of cut and scrap. And the thing that I haven't watched the whole episode yet because it's about 2 hours, about 2/3 of the way through. And Grant Cardone actually does a pretty slick thing with the car. It's just interesting. And what's really kind of ties these cities together is, these were all cities that were hit by the outsourcing and manufacturing, which, is a lot of places haven't recovered from that. And the whole premise of the show is to prove the American dream is still alive. And it's just a fascinating watch. Highly recommend it. Each one of these entrepreneurs is a really interesting story. She was a record label executive. She created her own record label. And she signed a deal with Interscope Records. So she has a pretty interesting story. She used to be married to Timberland. And she, grew up the daughter of a fighter pilot, and she got in the construction business, which is obviously a very male-dominated business, but, she rocked it. Grant Cardone, I talk enough about Grant Cardone on my podcast in here. He started off as a car salesman, down on his luck, and then he kind of realized that if he embraced what he hated, and he hated sales, right? So if he embraced what he hated and mastered it, he can help others become better sales people. And it kind of spiraled or grew out from there. So Robert Miller says, I'll check this out. Yeah, definitely check it out. It's really cool. Unfortunately, you can't binge watch it all yet. You can binge watch the first season, which looks pretty interesting. But what's interesting is they can't use any of their contacts, right? So this guy's, they're kind of stuck, and I think it really brings out the genius in them again. I think it reinvigorates them. You kind of look at Glenn Stearns, obviously during the middle of it, wasn't really happy, but at least in the parts of the episodes I've seen so far. But it really invigorates them. I think it connects them back to their drive. So I can't say enough good things about this show. If you have Hulu, Discovery is on Hulu. There's also, they're promoting a streaming service called Discovery Plus. Looks interesting. I don't know if I need another. I might cancel Disney Plus because The Mandalorian is done for a while. And I think Boba Fett won't be out for another year. And then maybe I'll switch over to Discovery because there's a lot of other cool things there too. So anyway, figured I'd give you a little bit more. Here's a cool book. I love this book. If you're not first, you're last. This is a good book. Maybe I'll review it on the next one. Feel free to leave me a comment. If you thought this was useful, what could be done better? Obviously, I've been working on the lighting and my kung fu here on the graphics. My name is Frank Lavinia. You can check me out my stuff at franksworld.com, datadriven.tv, and the newest podcast of the bunch, Impact Quantum. So with that, I will say you can follow me on Twitter, reach out to me there. Although your best bet realistically is to reach out to me on LinkedIn. So you have a fantastic weekend. Talk to you later.